peaceful town of Wymondham. But at some point in history, this place wasn't peaceful at all. This is a National Lottery Heritage-funded project. Two schools researched the story of crime and punishment in the 1500s, 1700s, and 1800s. Hello, I'm Alex Holmes, and today I'll be introducing you to a look of the crime of treason, the crime of theft, and the crime of murder. To see what punishments were given out in those distant days, and to see what today's equivalents might be like. It's quiet in the town of Wymondham today. You can take a nearby bus to go to the city of Norwich, or you can take a bus to go to the nearby town of Hethersett. That is where this crime story begins. We're here in the late 1700s in Wymondham to talk about the crime of theft. Elizabeth Pulley was born in Hethersett in 1763. Her name was Elizabeth Pulley. Or, some people got confused with her name and called her Elizabeth Pulley, and Polly for some strange reason. This strange reason was because people couldn't read or write, so they just kind of did it however they wanted. In her teenage years, Elizabeth spent her time begging for food, going among the streets, and trying to find places to sleep. Because there was no social security measures, Elizabeth went many times without eating. This could lead to desperate measures such as stealing just to live. The young orphan Elizabeth was sent to live in the workhouse. The sad thing is, workhouses at this time were much like prisons. It wasn't a nice time for kids.
A report from the doctor of the time saw that the children were all very sickly looking. They were pale, they never went outside, and they never ate.
In the 1700s, you were lucky enough to live to the age of 35. In most cases, even less. In the late 1700s, this used to be the courtroom for the people. It was also known as a bridewell. We're now going to go see what happened to Elizabeth Pulley on this fateful day, and she's going to the bridewell and going to meet the judge for the very first time. Let's hope that nothing bad happens.
All rise! Bring in the accused. You are Miss Elizabeth Pulley, are you not? Look at me when I'm talking to you, Miss Pulley. Well?
Yes, sir.
You are accused of stealing a loaf of bread from Mr. Nunn's bakery in the town of Wymondham on Tuesday last. Several people witnessed this theft, both within the premises and outside. What do you have to say for yourself? Speak up!
I was hungry, sir. I hadn't eaten since the day before.
The bread wasn't yours to take, though, was it, Miss Pulley? You have to pay like everybody else. This isn't the first time you've been in front of me, is it?
They said I didn't do that in the end.
Yes, you were acquitted. And yet now I'm not so sure. I think we need to teach you a lesson, Miss Pulley, and make an example of you. You will be taken from this courtroom and into the marketplace at Wymondham, where you will be whipped. You will then be taken to Wymondham Bridewell and locked in a cell for 3 weeks.
Oh, no, please, no!
Take her away!
For stealing a loaf of bread, Elizabeth was taken here, to the public marketplace. At this point here, people would be brought together to witness whippings in the town square. Here is a whipping post found in the nearby village of New Buckingham. A number of people would have had their hands tied through the metal holders and they would have been whipped. Punishments like this, unfortunately, didn't lead to Elizabeth changing her ways. She was poor, she had no income, no support, no nothing. How else is a girl supposed to survive in these sort of conditions? We rejoined the court just a few months later, but, as we can soon see, Elizabeth still finds herself in the dock.
So here we are again, Miss Pulley, and yet another case of stealing. Before we talk to you, Miss Pulley, I would like to call the victim of your latest crime, Mr. Samuel Pigleathing. Call Samuel Pigleathing.
That's pie gleething. The missus will be most upset.
You are a weaver, Mr. Pigleathing, are you not? And you reside in the town of Hethersett.
That's pie gleething, that's right, sir.
Perhaps you can tell us in your own words, Mr. Pigleathing, the events that bring you to court today.
That's pie. Oh, never mind. Yes, Your Honour. It was a week last Thursday. I were returning home, having been on my rounds, delivering repairs and garments to my customers. As I came up the path, a young girl ran past, holding a bundle under her shawl, with her face hidden so I could not see. Of course, I recognised her. That was Elizabeth Pulley, well known in the town. When I reached the door, it was open, and after a look about the house, I noticed several items were missing.
Yes, we have others that were witness to this also. It seems, Miss Pulley, that you have quite the reputation. There can be no excuse for this crime. You are sentenced to 12 months' hard labour in the Aylsham House of Correction. Remove her. No.
In 1783, Elizabeth finds herself in very deep trouble.
You have tried my patience and those of your victims too many times, Miss Pulley. When I look down at my notes, Miss Pulley, I see that on 8 occasions you have been brought back to court and have stood in front of me. On 8 occasions you have taken what has not been yours. You are a menace, Miss Pulley, and I believe the people of this parish have suffered from your ways immeasurably. You will be taken from this courtroom and await the gallows, where you will be hanged, God rest your soul, and so ends your crimes.
No! Take her down!
Following the judge's verdict, we now have a chance to hear what Elizabeth thought.
I had no choice, see? I was cold, freezing. It was winter, and I'd been thrown out of the poorhouse. I'm sorry for what I did, but then something strange happened. I got a reprieve. That judge changed his mind. Instead, I was taken to Norwich Castle, where I was locked up and had to do hard labour. I was put on the treadmill for 6 hours a day, sometimes in the dark. I was frightened. It was November 1786 when they came in and woke me up. Told me that I was being taken to Plymouth and put on a boat. The HM Dunkirk. Not much of a boat if you ask me. More a rotten hulk. We were to be taken to Australia the following year. March the 2nd, 1787 we set sail for what was going to be my new life.
Here's a factual news report for you. Transportation was a way for the British law to deal with criminals. Until the mid-1700s, convicts were shipped to North America. The American War of Independence, breaking away from British rule, put a stop to that. New land was found, Australia, and so the convicts were shipped there. This was no dream holiday. It could take 9 months to reach what is now called Sydney Harbour. The voyage was not pleasant. The lack of food, fresh water, and space made for a rough crossing. Added to which, you're on a ship full of the roughest criminals that ever existed. In the hulk of this ship, she formed what was known as the Fighting Five, a group of violent women. Elizabeth Pulley was the first fleeter, meaning she was among the first prisoners to be sent to Australia. When you arrived, you often put into gangs to work the land, build rough housing, and farm. Elizabeth Pulley met a fellow convict by the name of Anthony Rope. The two married and had a child named Robert. Apparently, he was the first white child born on Australian soil. They continued on to have another 7 children. Because of being in this new, strange, harsh land, the life of crime never really left them. Elizabeth Pulley, the poor orphan from Hethersett, found herself at the edge of the world and died in 1837. She was 74, which was twice that of the life expectancy at that time in Britain.
Anthony Rope died in 1843 and was buried in Sydney. There is a monument to commemorate these first fleeters. Capital punishments, such as hanging, were called the death penalty and were finally stopped in 1964. In Elizabeth's day, there was a law called the Black Act. This listed 50 offences that would have led to the death penalty. This included crimes such as theft and shoplifting. This act was brought in to protect the wealthy classes. You could be hung for stealing as little as 12 pence. That would be £5 in today's money. In today's day and age, the judge would have been more sympathetic towards Elizabeth, such as judging her health, her age, where she grew up. Most of these things would have come into play, and why she wasn't able to access help and support. Today, she probably would have been given a fine or community service. This has been Alex Holmes, reporting on crime and punishment in Norfolk. This has been a National Lottery Heritage funded project, organised by ERM. We have presented work from Pathways College and from Watton Junior School. This has been in association with Wymondham Heritage Museum.